And so another thing that, and this is the last part of the article, that another thing that we can do to boost those pleasure hormones, aside from talking and engaging, is hugging and touch. And actually, it said that there's actually a prescription of if you can hug 5 times a day for 4 weeks, that it will create lasting differences, changes in your brain chemistry. And said if you don't have someone to hug, or if you don't have a pet to hug, even massage can do it. But just having that meaningful touch is something
I love it. Yeah.
We can just take for granted. And even in our relationships, and we could just be so busy and take it for granted. But we need it.
Definitely. We definitely do. Yeah.
It creates creates, again, this is another example of that. It creates changes in our brains.
So I want to talk about that, because I don't know if people are aware how our brains work. You and I do. So our brains are very much like electrical circuits. They have our thoughts that we often have, familiar feelings, are little circuits that always use the same path.
Right.
And so we need to somehow break through, and that touch, that massage, or that hug is a great tool to be able to break free of those circuits that we feel confined in. And often it's so difficult to change them because we feel so anxious to deal differently, to act differently. Just 5 minutes, not 5 minutes ago, 5 minutes before you and I started to talk, I had a client, and he was just different throughout the whole session. And this is someone who cannot express his anger so easily, and therefore it's difficult for him to keep his boundaries. And I kept probing, like, are you okay? And then finally I thought of something, and I said, it feels like you're angry with me. And there it was. He was finally able to say, and it was like floodgates open. He was so angry with me, and da da da. And then he finally shifted, broke free of his circuit that he had to contain it himself. And the shift was so obvious in his face expression, in his body language, in the way he held himself. It was so beautiful to see. Just doing something differently is literally going down the path less traveled, and that's extremely anxiety evoking. And when we hug someone, we literally secrete oxytocin, which is the hormone of warmth and love and that wonderful mushy feeling. And that's really helping us, almost like our moms telling, off you go, you can do it.
Right. Well, and I think what you're describing, what you did with your patient, it wasn't a physical hug, but what it demonstrates is how powerful it is to be seen and validated and not shamed for it. And how many times growing up do we have the experiences of our parents actually being able to see what we're not even able to put words to? I mean, my parents are wonderful, but they were not capable of doing that. And I think
mirroring what was not a concept that was known at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that feels like what you described feels like an emotional hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A verbal, or maybe the way I was looking at him. Something about our relationship, the safety. And, somehow I just kept trying. And towards the 40th minute or so, he was able to express himself. So, and it came from a difficult place, I could see. And he wasn't in tears or something, but he was like, not his careful self. And I like that he wasn't that careful.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, it's just doing something differently takes a lot of courage. And in therapy, those are the moments where the biggest shifts occur. It's not like people tell us something and we just figure it out and
Right.
go home.
Right.
So it's such a
Yeah.
foreign language that is learned here, isn't it?
Yes. And just a quick little anecdote, again, about the hugs is Debbie told me that she has a friend who shared with her that hugging 5 times a day, literally, she feels like it saved her marriage because she and her husband are so different and were just feeling so distant from each other. And she really feels like the thing that kept them together was just practicing doing that. I mean, hugging regularly.
And you know what? I think I was reading in a magazine the other day, maybe some, like really like parenting magazine or something. In the back, there was a piece on sexuality and how difficult it is to keep an active sexual life going when you have kids and have a busy life and all. And one of the experts was saying sometimes, and it's very, I think, much in line with what you're saying, a quickie is not just like having quick sex. A
Mm,
quickie is sometimes just hugging someone and, just putting your hand down their pants or something. It's just that touch, just hug,
mm,
just making the other person feel that you're sexually there,
mm,
that recognizing them sexually,
mm,
more like it.
mhm, mhm.
It just, it's almost like better than, I mean, definitely better than doing nothing, but it does sometimes replace the feeling of, oh, we just had sex and it was wonderful.
Mm,
It's just so important to keep that touch going.
mhm.
And it's something that I often tell people who are cancer survivors and who are having difficulty in finding intimacy again,
Mhm.
because not only their bodies are different, but the feeling they have about themselves and the other obviously is
Right.
different because they've shifted
Right.
in so many ways. So it's about, to me, it's about maintaining that touch, that sensuality, if you like. Having, sometimes holding hands is just holding hands, and sometimes it's an act of sex,
Mm,
the way you hold the hand
mhm.
or the way you touch your partner. I think it's just, there's so much more there that we can cultivate if we just pay attention, or if we are engaged in that moment.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
hug sometimes.
Yeah. And again, it triggers all these pleasure related hormones, just the hug, the endorphins, and which
Totally.
which combats pain and
And oxytocin, of
and
course.
oxytocin.
And I think for men is vasopressin, right? That
Yeah.
calming. Yeah. So important.
Yes. Say goodbye for now, and we'll continue our discussion next week.
Sure. Great. Thank you.